Here we are back for another episode of Spainer and Riggs, our second official episode. We're excited to get it going. We got an action-packed podcast. We're going to touch on a little bit of the NFL Roundup, talk about some Super Bowl and everything going on in the NFL. We got a great talk for ND College Sports. Excellent interview with head coach Matt Murken of MSU. And we're going to talk a little local high school sports. Great interview with Kindred girls head coach Sam Brandt. We're excited to do that. So are you ready for episode number 2?
I'm ready.
Well, let's go.
So, Super Bowl this past Sunday. Did you enjoy the game?
I did enjoy the game. Actually, it was a really good game. You know what? At the end of the day, I was really excited for a great game. It was kind of back and forth. It had it all. The excitement that went down back and forth, of course, coming down to the wire. And then one of those, what was going to happen at the end. You know, Matthew Stafford drives down the field, and of course, Aaron Donald with a big play. So I was very excited for the game. I mean, there were certainly so many little adjustments. I was hoping for the Bengals to find a way. I was optimistic that Joey Burrow was going to get it done, but unfortunately,
I thought that was interesting. And he's a young quarterback. Mm-hmm. You know, he's in the Super Bowl in his second year, so obviously props to Joe Burrow. 4th and 1. Mm-hmm. Last play for the Bengals. They need a first down. They called perfect play. They tie the right side of the Rams secondary up. The slot receiver gets free at the sideline, and Joe Burrow kind of has tunnel vision on Chase, and it allows Donald to get in there and make a play. And my brothers and all my nephews, they're all Rams fans. Just a
diehard St. Louis group or what?
My brothers are Rams, LA
okay,
Rams.
Right.
He's 50. He just turned 54.
Okay.
Anyway, January 14th. Yeah. So when the game was over, I texted them right away, Cup/Donald MVP. So
agreed.
It's interesting because the next day on First Take, they were arguing Stafford, Cup, or Donald, and then everyone either Donald or Cup. And I thought it should have been a co-MVP situation, and they gave it just to Cup. And when the Rams couldn't move the ball, I mean, Donald put the team on his shoulders in that second half. And that sack that forced the field goal, where the Bengals had a chance to walk in and just end the game, I thought that set the tone for the whole second half of Rams defense. I thought Ramsey, I know he got reamed on the one, but he was not the best corner in the NFL, Ramsey, in that game.
He wasn't.
Donald was
maybe
best player of all time in that game.
Second half, first play, over the top there. And, it's tough. I thought some play calls should have been better for the Bengals. I mean, they were running the ball there with a minute left and trying to get that extra yard. And, the biggest thing, and you talk about everything that the Bengals were doing, their whole scheme was trying to shut down Aaron Donald to be able to give him some opportunities to throw the ball. And all the first half, they had some success with some quick throws. But, man, that defensive line, 7 sacks. It was insurmountable. I mean, if you Bengals were to win, they would have second most or tied for most sacks in an NFL game. If they would have won, that would have been unbelievable. But geez. But it was a great game. Like I said, it's something we can all look forward to. The Rams, I'm excited for Stafford. He lives and plays in
How big was that? For him to have that drive.
For sure.
And the Bengals
scored 2 touchdown passes, technically.
The Bengals have to be hurting after Montana to Taylor on that final drive in the 80s there. Was that 1988, right?
For sure.
89 February, but 88 season. It's nice for Stafford.
For sure. And you know what? Hey, great game all around. Both positives. Of course, you're excited for the Rams. The Bengals, they didn't have any business being there. They were excited to be there. They've far exceeded their expectations, way ahead of schedule on their rebuild. And, man, that AFC is going to be tough. We're going to have other podcasts. We're going to talk about other quarterbacks, carousels. But, man, that AFC here in the next, 5 to 10 years, good luck.
They've got to get it done quick, though, because once you pay that quarterback, it gets a lot more difficult to make it happen. And they're going to have him and Chase coming at the same time.
For sure.
They need a left tackle, though, don't they?
Oh, big time.
They do have cap money.
They do have cap money. They do have like a third highest cap money.
Yeah, and so I think they'll be able to fix that offensive line fairly easy. But I disagree a little bit with the 3rd and 1 call on the run.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was a slam dunk for a first down, and they got Donald with one arm.
Unbelievable.
He's got one arm on the center of the guard, and then he's got one arm, and he just doesn't let him cross the line. And that leads me, and you guys know we have the GOAT segment where we're gonna try to hash it out from sport to sport until we get to the greatest athlete of all time. And we decided, and you guys decided with comments, that we would split the offense and defense of greatest of all time players. And I'll just rattle off some. You tell me if someone's missing. You guys can tell if someone's missing. The obvious, Lawrence Taylor. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if we go to the 70s, maybe Jack Lambert, right? Mm-hmm. We have Deion. Yep. I'm going to shut down half the field, Deion Sanders.
And the special team stuff, but yeah, we're defense, but I got it. Yep.
We have Aaron Donald.
Yep.
Right? We have Mike Singletary probably maybe in there. It's kind of tough to put him in there when he was, overshadowed by LT the whole time. Who do you got? The best defensive player of all time.
It's tough. I'm certainly much younger than you, so I certainly don't have the history as you go back. But you watch a lot of video. You hear about what Bill Belichick talks about. Lawrence Taylor and how he changed the game, and how you could, as an offense, you really had to account for what he did. His stats were impeccable. Got a Super Bowl at the right time when he needed it. For me, now in this day and age, and I don't want to, slam on the things that have happened in the past, because the game has changed, vastly, in terms of what is going on for quarterbacks. Aaron Donald, to me, is the greatest defensive player, at least in my era, and that's who I would pick. Just for what he has been able to do recently and what he's been able to do, in his, career to cement what he did in the Super Bowl is, for me, is certainly what it is. And he's still young. And, there's talk about him retiring. That's unbelievable. Geez, if he can go on. And, again, we talked about it with the last one, with the whole LeBron discussion is, longevity. Players didn't play quite as long back in the day in the 70s and 80s and 90s. If Aaron Donald goes on to play another 3-4 more years, at such a physical defensive position, and maintains this, I don't know if there's any debate, especially if the Rams run it back again next year. Your thoughts?
It's interesting. You know how you have the player retirement talk for contracts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's Donald, and I don't think he's retiring. I just don't think he likes training camp. So
the old Brett Favre
I do think he's coming back. I've seen a lot of football. I may be older than you. I do age like wine, though.
Okay, all right.
But I did watch the Cowboys Steelers Super Bowl, and I did watch the Rams Steelers Super Bowl. I saw Mean Joe Green. I saw Jack Lambert. I saw Singletary in the 85 Bears. And the 85 Bears were so good. And they were, the whole defense was, so dominant. And it was almost a gimmick. You've seen the gimmick teams that come out, the run and shoots and whatnot. And they ran the 4-4, and no one had ever seen it. And they were so good. I don't know if you ever heard the story, but the Bears were terrible in 1981. They were terrible. No. And the Bears defense got together and wrote a hand letter.
Was Ditka there at that time, that early?
He was the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
No, sorry. Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator. And the defense got together, and they wrote a handwritten note to Papa Bear Hallis. And they said, "We know you're likely going to make a change."
Oh, boy.
At coach. Will you please retain Buddy Ryan? And Ditka was an assistant with the Cowboys.
Okay.
And he wanted to coach the team really bad. Mm-hmm. And so Hallis gave him the job for the lowest coaching salary of all time. And Ditka took it. But Hallis said that was the most Bear decision, or that letter, that he's ever seen in his years as a Bear. And he was so proud of his guys. He hadn't been to practice in more than 5 years. He came down to practice, and he walked right up to his defensive team and told them, "I'm keeping Buddy Ryan." Yep. And then they hired Ditka. They went on to the '85 Bears, and and if you remember, they carried Buddy Ryan off the field in that game.
Yep.
But and they beat Dallas in '85, 44-0. It was the worst loss in Dallas history. Still is the worst loss in Dallas history. But they were so good. Gary Fensick, Dan Hampton, McMichael. I can't put Singletary in there. Lawrence Taylor was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie, and I remember his rookie year taking he went in coverage and took a ball in the flat 99 yards back for a touchdown and interception. I think it's a two-person discussion. I know people are going to bring up Reggie White.
I was going to say,
I will tell you this. Right now, Taylor's got 2 rings. It was easier. This sounds dumb because it was a more physical game. But Lawrence Taylor was an edge. Donald's an interior lineman. It was easier, and this may, and to many viewers might tell us about, sounds dumb because when you're on that edge, you don't want to stop the run. Lawrence Taylor played in an era that was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which physically is very difficult, pulling guards hitting you. But he was so dominant on the pass rush, he only had to do it one down every set of downs. Where in this day and age, people were running and passing in many different situations. But in all my years of watching football, all the way back to the '78 Steelers beating the Cowboys 35-31 in the Super Bowl, I've never seen a performance defensively like Aaron Donald Sunday. The Rams were hurting offensively. They could not run the ball. They lost Odell Beckham, and points were not coming. And it just seemed like the Bengals were eventually going to score, but Aaron Donald just kept making play after play and sack and hurry, and he just kept getting them off on third down until Stafford could mount that drive. So I'll say this, and it's tough, but I think that the best defensive performance I've ever seen in my entire life is Aaron Donald on Sunday. And I'm not a guy that's swayed by recent events. I told you that I thought the Chargers-Dolphins game in the early 80s, the Kellen Winslow field goal block, carrying them off the field, was the best game of all time, not the Bills and Chiefs of this recent year, which is definitely a very close second. I'm not swayed by just recent events like many people, but I still think that LT is number one because of longevity. 2 Super Bowls, and I think Donald is right there.
It has the potential to. Does Aaron Donald have the potential?
I think if I don't think he even has to win another championship.
It just
needs to have some more playoff performances. Because right now, by every metric that the NFL measures players, Aaron Donald's ahead in every single interior defensive lineman metric all time. So I don't think it's much longer that he will be the number one all time.
We want to put this up to a poll, right?
We do.
All right. Well, we want to know. All right. We did last week. We had basketball. This week, we want to know defensive GOAT. Who's the best defensive player all time in the NFL?
And the results from last week, overwhelmingly from you guys, was Michael Jordan. We both had Michael Jordan, so Michael Jordan will be our bid for basketball.
I feel like we got a lot of younger. No, that was an older. I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see how this goes.
When I was out on the road, I asked that question on TikTok to in my interviews, and 100% said Michael Jordan. So, there was one vote for Shaq, and we didn't even talk about him.
No, we didn't.
And he was big and dominant.
Well, we definitely want to hear from you guys. The other big NFL topic we want to know is we talk a little bit about the Vikings, right? We want to talk about the Vikings and be specifically about what it needs to be happening for them. Changes in terms of personnel. What do they need to get in the draft? Go. What are your thoughts?
Well, looking at the Vikings, and you can go a lot of different directions. They need interior offensive line. They need interior offensive line without question. They need a corner. I think they need a playmaking linebacker, and they need an edge rusher. And when you're in the middle of the draft, it's tough. You don't know what's going to fall. I mean, Devin Lloyd from Utah, Thibodeau from Oregon would be dreams. They're going in the top 10. The Vikings are not trading multiple first-round picks to get up and get a defensive player. It's not going to happen. I think a dream scenario falling to the Vikings would be the edge rusher from Purdue, George Karlaftis. I think he's the third edge rusher on the board. Obviously, if Devin Lloyd falls, and I know he's a little bit below Thibodeau because Thibodeau's an edge, but I think Lloyd reminds me of Micah Parsons. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going top 5. But if they can get the Purdue guy, and I'm looking at when their offense was clicking and they lose those games like 32-29 or whatnot, they couldn't get off the field. And I think the biggest impact would be an edge rusher. I just think because of the wide receivers and whatnot that are ahead of him, I think he's a top 14, top 13 talent, and you can get him closer to 20. That's where I see it. I don't know what you think.
It's tough because you kind of touched on some of the areas, offensive line, a little bit defensive line, all that sort of thing. There's no doubting that they've got some elite players at various positions. I feel like Dalvin Cook's one of the best running backs in the NFL. He is on my fantasy team. I have had him as a keeper for the last couple of years. So I've seen that success. You talk about their receivers being elite. I am a big fan of Kirk Cousins, but I feel like they are literally another Matthew Stafford away from being at that next level, because when you talk about offensive line, and we talked about what it was for the Bengals and how Joey Burrow just was getting hit left and right, you can have a bad offensive line, but a good quarterback makes up for it. If he gets that ball off a little bit quicker, makes right decisions, audibles at the line for better play action plays, and their screen game changes a whole lot of things. I would think for the Vikings, though, the long-term solution for them is definitely not Kirk Cousins. So, what is their plan? So
Pickett's the top quarterback, right?
But I just feel like there is going to be a mess here in this quarterback carousel. I feel like things are heating up, and of course things get overhyped and people get too amplified into what's going on, especially when you start to see like things like Kyler Murray's dropping his social media and all those type of all the garbage that goes with that. But I do feel like there is a bit of a domino effect. I'm really hoping it somehow works with my new Washington Commanders team. But I do think for the Vikings, if they were able to pull something off, if there's a disgruntled Russell Wilson in Seattle, and Seattle is out of options for trades, but yet an upgrade would be to bring in Kirk Cousins and get a pick or something like that, might be a game changer for them. If they don't address what their future long-term plan is at the quarterback position, I just think they're going to be in a downward spiral, and again, be another one of those teams that is always good, good, competing. They'll contend. They'll be in games. They're not going to get blown out. But, you talk about what the Kansas City Chiefs did, in terms of having Alex Smith, and he was a great quarterback, but not good enough, and they dumped him for, Patrick Mahomes because they knew the long-term, potential was going to be better. Think about the Buffalo Bills as another example. Who did they have? They had bounced around with Tyrod Taylor, but they went all in on a new quarterback, went for it too as well. It's a vicious cycle. You have to continue to keep drafting until you get your guy, because what's the point? You want to be mediocre? You want to be average and just have a great defense and hope you're going to win? You think about what's going on in the future of the NFL now, honestly, you're not going to get a very lucky Jimmy G pulling off something like that. You are going to get an elite quarterback, Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. Those are the ones that are going to be the winners in NFC Championship, AFC Championship, and win Super Bowl.
Well, that leads us to another point.
We'll open up a can of worms. Sorry,
okay,
folks,
so
that's what we do.
Let's look at all the Super Bowl champion quarterbacks over the last 20 years. We don't have very many that haven't won on their rookie contract.
Yeah.
Tom Brady has consistently, with his Giselle $50 million a year money, taken less. Peyton Manning's year, a bunch of guys jumped to Denver to play with him in his last year on contract deals.
Max deal,
and he didn't take max deal either. When you're looking at this, Russell Wilson rookie contract, Aaron Rodgers rookie contract, Ben Roethlisberger. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that have been paid that have won. So when you're talking free agent route, You almost have to get the Stafford, whose contract was so long ago that it's at a deal, right? A discounted price. You know, here's the question. We're talking draft. If Pickett falls to the Vikings, is he Josh Allen level, or is he Baker Mayfield level? And do the Vikings go there, or do they try to get a piece to help Cousins get over the top?
You've kind of opened up a massive can of worms, and I think the problem is expectations versus reality. Back in the day, 90s, 2000s, you drafted a quarterback and expected a year or two, maybe 3 years to develop until probably year 4, you become an elite quarterback. Now, these kids are coming right out in their rookie years and being unbelievable. Joey Burrow, Josh Allen, all these guys within 2-3 years, absolutely elite quarterbacks. And I think that has ruined it, for the quarterback market, because the reality for Pickett is he could be a very good quarterback. You just don't hope you get him into a Mitch Trubisky type of scenario, or where you're starting to think, like they talk about the Chicago Bears. Everybody was dumping on Trubisky about how he was very mediocre and they got rid of him.
Went to playoffs twice.
And then now, you see about their quarterback situation and how they've almost bumbled it with Fields, and how, maybe he's not quite as bad, and maybe it was just their development of quarterbacks under Nagy. It's just, it opens up. I really hope that a lot of these quarterbacks, like Trey Lance, we talked about NDSU, Trey Lance, a lot of excitement. He's probably, I think I was reading a stat last week, is he's had the least amount of pass attempts of any quarterback ever going into the NFL, because he didn't start, didn't play a whole lot of games. There was the COVID year, all this sort of thing. I think, I really hope that doesn't happen to Pickett, because of course, my Commanders are picking, in the middle there, and that could be, I think Mel Kiper's mock draft has talked about it. So, but
that's why I wanted to ask you. I know, and I think both Vikings and Redskins have them on their board, and it'd be interesting to see how either of those value him
for sure. And you talk about Aaron Rodgers, and now they're $45 million over the cap. They've already said in the media reports is that they're going to go all in. Well, he's going to have to restructure. Well, if Aaron Rodgers goes and tells the Packers, I'm playing, and takes a big pay cut, or takes a pay cut instead of whatever he's expected to potentially make, if he does, to free up room, to make sure they get Devontae Adams and then fill in a couple of these holes and pull the Tom Brady deal.
Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari.
I mean, there's a lot of that stuff, but I feel like
signed Bakhtiari, and they
you
got
can
hurt.
push some of these contracts out. You're just going to pay for it 5 years down the road and have virtually no money. But it's going to be interesting. And the biggest discussion now we've talked about is some of these teams here of late. The Buccaneers, last year, and how they, all these free agents to make it work. And now what do the Rams do?
Discounted
they go all
deals.
in. Yep. They go all in. They make all these trades. How many teams are going to be in that mix, like that think that they're close but not close enough, and yet make a big splash?
If I'm the Denver Broncos, I'm trading 2 or 3 firsts, and I'm trying to get Aaron Rodgers. And I think Green Bay, if they're not going to retain him, I think they want him in the AFC. That'll be interesting.
But anyways, that was.
Let us know who is the greatest defensive player all time, and also tell us who you would like to see the Vikings get in free agency and in the draft, because whoever they get in free agency is obviously going to change what they do in the draft. So we'll see you next week on that one.
Here we are with the North Dakota College segment. We are excited to have a special guest, Mr. Matt Murken, head coach at Minot State. They're having a tremendous season with a big weekend sweep, included knocking off the number 8 Duluth Bulldogs. We had a great interview. Here it is. All right, we're here with the big interview segment here with Sprainer and Riggs. Excited to have a very special guest, head coach of the men's basketball team, Mr. Matt Murken. Matt, how are we doing today?
Good, thanks for having me, guys.
Matt, last Friday night I happened to be at your game there against St. Cloud, and a team that's given you fits over the years. You're able to get that one done. They've been a thorn in your side. Tell us about that win and how it felt.
Yeah, definitely good to get that one. It's been a team the last few. We've kind of had a history of having close games with them, and the last few they've got the better of us. We had to play 3 in a row at their place because COVID last year. We had to go there every time and then start off there this year. And I had a little bit of a losing streak versus those guys, and usually a team that for some reason we always seem to have a good battle with. Way back when I started at Minot State, we had a kid out of St. Cloud that was one of kind of our first kids that we got here when we came after we'd gone Division II, and they were a top 20 team in the country one year, and we knocked them off down there, which was a huge victory for us. But they've had our number a little bit since then, and feels good to start the weekend off always on a Friday night. You guys coach sports as well, where you're usually playing on a back-to-back days or maybe a Thursday, Saturday or something. It kind of clears it up a little bit more to start with a victory on that first game of the weekend always. So that's always a good way to tip it off.
Absolutely. Now, of course, the big one, is when you have a big statement win and playing against a top-ranked, top-end team like Duluth. Talk us through that one for us in terms of how that means for you guys. And we talk about, obviously you're trying to progress to the end game and get to that Pentagon and obviously try to, go deep into that type of tournament. But explain to us, what that statement win for your guys is, both in terms of confidence and just things that you accomplished against a top 10 team.
Yeah, it was a huge win for us. They came in number 6 in the country in NCAA Division II. So huge victory on our home court. For so many reasons. Number one, you always want your guys to feel like they can beat anybody, especially at home. Number two, we're in a real battle right now for seeding purposes and for the postseason and all that stuff. So that was a huge win as well because of those things. But I don't know. I looked back a few years and I saw that Spain. I know you guys beat Mankato when they were 13 one year. You guys get any top 10 victories? I know you and the boys knocked off St. Cloud State. I think they were number 4 one year. About 4 years ago, they knocked them off, which was a huge one for, as far as the D2 teams that we have at Minot State for victory. So I have to check with you and see who you guys knocked off Spain in your tenure.
Putting them on the spot.
Yeah, I know. We had a ton of ranked victories. I think the closest we came to a top 10, we had Central Missouri at home, and they were number 2, I think. And we went to double overtime, and Bello hit a shot from about 25 yards away with like 6 seconds, and it got past their keeper, and it hit the post. Oof. And it rolled along the goal line behind the keeper, and the buzzer went off. It didn't roll in or out. It just rolled right along the goal line. And I thought maybe, with turf.
I remember that one.
that was rough because that would have been a massive victory, and we would have been the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But either way, it got us in the NCAA tournament. The draw did.
Yeah, you know how that goes with the way they do it in NCAA D2 is just playing quality teams is a big deal too, and then obviously beating them, you get the bonus points and all that sort of thing. And it's kind of got us. We had a stretch on the road where we didn't play our best, but that's got us back at least in the conversation. One of the regional polls that came out had us 11th now, which is a big deal. We've got a huge week this week too. We've got to keep winning for sure. But top 10. Anytime you get a top 10, that's a statement win. And it's always that fine line. You want the boys feeling good about them, but you also want them to go back to work right away. And but it can be a confidence booster, and let them know. It's always good to see that what they're doing works and the hard work's paying off and moving in the right direction. So definitely a big win for our program, and we've got a few ranked victories, but that was definitely the highest team we've knocked off.
Tell me this one. How did it feel relative to your Pentagon victory? Which one's bigger? Which one, which one, rank them?
Yeah, that's always the question as a coach, right? I think that the one this weekend was kind of, I don't know, our guys had you guys know the feeling as a coach where you just have that feeling. And earlier in the week, we had just talked as a coaching staff and kind of said, we're gonna beat them. Like you really, a lot of times you feel like you got a good chance, but something about the way our guys had gone about their business, we felt really good about our game plan that our assistant coaches had put together. And our guys were really going about their business the right way. So, and then we really played well and got after them a little bit. It was almost strange. It was, we knocked them off by about 16 or so, and the crowd never really got into it huge because we had a nice lead on them. And it wasn't really in doubt too much. I'd probably say the Pentagon one, just because postseason, you guys know, playoffs is always special. And I've got to give credit, the NCAA, this and that, and the NSIC, and sometimes you don't agree with the higher ups of what they do or whatever, but our conference puts on a tremendous men's and women's basketball tournament down at the Pentagon. They just do. I mean, it's unbelievable the job that our conference and that facility does, and the way that our student athletes are treated, and they pay for everything, and they really make you feel like it's a big deal. So that was a really big one. That one was, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick that one just because it's postseason. And it got us a shot at Northern State, who was a top 5 team. We weren't able to knock them off. But that was certainly a big win. But
You got,
you guys know. I mean, hopefully I can win as many big games as you guys have won in your careers, and then you got more options to choose from, right? And it was fun to debate those things.
Absolutely.
You've had a great run here at Minot State, but I want to ask you about one of your local kids there, Ben Bowl. Man, he can defend in the perimeter really well, huh?
Huge key for us to that victory over Duluth. Best defensive player we have. He's really bought into that, takes pride in that. Our local guys have been playing really well, especially the last couple of weeks. A lot of our local guys there's a little bit of a drought coming through here as far as really guys that I thought were D2 level players. There's been a lot of good players throughout the years out of Minot or the surrounding areas, but we had a little drought where we didn't have anybody local for a while. And I think when we were able to get Ben to commit, and he's one of those goofy kids that's a 3rd-year freshman because of the COVID stuff and redshirting, it's kind of crazy. But when Ben and Mason committed, they had just such a great career at Ryan, 3 state tournaments and so many big games. And when those guys came, that was a big deal. And then Jackson Gunville came, and Easton Larson the next year, who'd been on Minot High's team. And Jackson and Ben are playing a lot for us right now. But man, Ben is just he's got a toughness level that you really want to coach as a coach. You just love having guys like that. So huge part of our win over Duluth the other night, and a huge part of our team for the next few years. Just great to have that guy kind of as a cornerstone in your recruiting, and anytime you have a young guy that's playing well, you just love it as a coach because you got a little stability for a few years.
Absolutely. You know what, Matt, I've known you for a while, and hey, I remember even the time when you got announced the head coach at Minot State, and kind of in that transition post, what do you call it, the grace area of what we call for the NCAA, and especially for our transition for D2. And there's some lean years early on, trying to establish a new culture and all that stuff, to where the program is right now, where you guys are constantly competing. You guys are a threat now in the NSIC, and that's a major culture shift. And so, Matt, my question to you, and this is, for 2 coaches, what was the key to this transition for this program to put themselves in a spot where they're contending every year? You're getting outstanding recruits, you're getting the best local kids here, and there's just a buy-in, which is just infectious. So just, tell us a little bit about where this transition has been, because it's been big for us, or your program too.
Yeah, it's been huge. It's hard. First of all, I can't believe this is my 10th year at Minot State. It's crazy. And you guys were here for a lot of that as well. And just the level of competition in our league is huge. And this is a debate, and I don't know if Jason and I ever talked about this, but and it would not have been possible due to the NCAA rules, but in a lot of ways, it may have been an easier transition. This can be debated at least. If Minot State would have gone to a Division I program in some sports, because if you go Division I, and I'll just throw this out there, you join, maybe you join the Big Sky or some other conference. And no disrespect to the Big Sky, but the Big Sky is not the ACC in basketball, or it's not the SEC in football or whatever. I know they have different conferences in that, but when we joined the NSIC, we basically joined pretty much the best conference in NCAA Division II. So not only do you go up a level, but then you go to the very best of that level. That's a huge commitment from so many people, and from administration to the community to everybody. It was a big jump, and I don't want to say that in a way that because I know there was a lot of success in a lot of sports at the NAI level, and a lot of people put in a lot of work, but a lot of people put in a lot of work for that jump too. So, man, it got tough right away for a lot of our teams. And like you said, just trying to be in it for the long haul. And you mentioned kind of our first thing was we've got to get the best local kids that we can get, and we've got to make it where they want to stay in Minot and play for us. And there's just something about playing for your hometown team where it means a little bit more to those guys. So that was a huge part of it. And then you're trying to go through those baby steps of developing a program of little wins here and there. And it's a long haul, and we were trying to be in it for the long haul as a coaching staff. And that was kind of my goal the whole time, is to get. And the other thing is, just, I think coaches say it, and you guys know this though, but I wanted to coach guys that I truly enjoy being around every day, because you put in 100%. So much time and so much effort. It's such a huge, you're on the bus for how many hours? You guys know it's great. People wouldn't understand. Yeah, I mean, you're rolling in at 7 a.m, sometimes later than 7 a.m after playing a night game the day before. And, when you stop at 4 a.m. and walk into the truck stop, you want to be laughing with the guys. You don't want to be looking to see who's trying to grab a candy bar and walk out or something crazy like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And we've been able to coach guys that really enjoy being around, especially now, my wife and I. That's a big change for me too. Being a single coach for so many years and all the hours on the road recruiting, and now I've got a wife, and we've got 2 little ones under the age of 2. So, but you want to have your team over for, dinner or whatever, and you want them to play with your kids and enjoy it. And you want your kids to look up to them, not just as athletes, but as people. So, it sounds cliche with all that stuff, but man, isn't that some of the best part of being a coach? Is that sort of stuff a little bit. And,
100%.
I remember my last year in Minot, we had your team over for dinner, and that was a lot of fun. That
was awesome.
We teach the kids, the guys, board games and stuff, and that was a pretty cool night. There's some truth to what you're saying about the D2, D1, and D2's that's a journey. It's not a quick jump. I think you would agree with that. Some of the stuff that people don't understand. So in D2, it's limited number of scholarships. It's not like a huge number like Division I. So, when you're recruiting to a city that doesn't have a metropolitan area, you put your scholarships into a majority of your team moving from far away, so you have all your money on your starting lineup. Mm-hmm. So if you take a Grand Valley or a Mankato or a St. Cloud, they can build a roster in their metropolitan area, with fractions of scholarships and whatnot, or walk-ons that can compete at the Division II level, with local people. And that's one. And there are some fantastic local people. I was going to ask you about the Foster kid at Rugby. If he's on your radar, he is a long, athletic kid, and he runs the court defensively. I was really impressed. But there are some local kids like Bull and Hedberg and whatnot, and Rudolph and stuff that have helped your program. But you don't have the metropolitan base to get 3 or 4 walk-ons that end up being good sixth men or starters in Division II like a metropolitan area would have. But whereas Division I, now we would never have the income to compete with the ACC or the SEC or anything like that. But you can get to the scholarship limit and out recruit a Big Sky, and I think that's what Murk is talking about. But that's the initial jump. Division II is a long journey, and you're 10 years in. You're seeing this journey through, and your team's in position to have a home playoff game and get back to the Pentagon. So that's good.
Kind of the standard has been raised. And like I said, that goes from like you said, as a culture of a program now. Those kids that you attempt to try to recruit in the past, now you are being able to make those phone calls, and they are going to listen because the program is now established and that competition goes with it. So, but hey, Matt, we want to thank you. Thank you very much for your time. This has been a great experience. I know we'll definitely be having him on again in the future. Hey, Spainer.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I like that you hit on that little Division II topic, because we're having a debate coming up here in the next few weeks about Minot State, should they have gone to Division II. So I like your lead in for us, Matt. That was nice of you.
All right.
All right, bud. Take care.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you're doing for local sports.
You bet.
Thanks a lot. We are here with the North Dakota High School Sports segment, and we had the opportunity to interview the most intense coach I've ever met, Sam Brandt, Minot State alumni, Kindred #1 ranked girls basketball team in the state of North Dakota. And here we go. Yeah, hey, this is Spanner Rig Show, and we've got Sam Brandt on the line, and she is the head coach of the #1 ranked basketball team in the state, the Kindred Vikings. Is that right?
That's right. You got it right.
That's good knowledge, huh? So you want to go?
Absolutely. Well, Sam, I know I remember your times at Minot State. Now, I can't remember if I was intramural director or if you were in intramurals a lot, but I know your husband was a ton. And I know every time we had basketball or dodgeball, he would always recruit. Remember your involvement in with a lot of that stuff too. Tell us a little bit about your Minot State experience, because there's a lot of athletes that have been there that will just be their sports and then they go to their dorms and do their thing. But you were very involved, and I know your husband was very involved. But tell us a little bit about your Minot State experience and why you got to be so involved and how that was a big part of your development as who you are now.
I absolutely loved my Minot experience. I'm not sure if you know exactly where I came from, but I grew up in the cities, went to a 4A class school, and graduated with almost 800 kids. I know Minot High has a very high enrollment, but it's a very small town and everybody knows each other. So just telling my parents, hey, I got this handwritten letter. They want to see me play over there. They are asking me to come out for a recruiting trip. My dad's like, oh, you're just a city girl. You're going to hate it. I walked into the dome and I loved it. And I actually met my husband, Tim Brandt, on my recruiting trip, my official recruiting trip out to Minot State. And I really enjoyed the fact that no matter where you went, you knew somebody, or they knew who you were, or you made friends fast just because you're really connected with athletes and different activities that you did. And that's exactly what I like to do. I like to be a part of everything that's going on just to make sure I could feel that sense of community and meet new people and enjoy my experience in college. And that is what I like to share with all the seniors, whether they're my athletes or my students, is do everything. Do everything. I know you think the junior high dances
100%.
and the high school dances are lame in high school, but they're really, really a great time in college.
So tell us who wrote that handwritten note to you?
That was Sheila Green. She had seen me it was just like, I'm just a 5'0" point guard wanting to play somewhere. She had seen me at a recruiting camp in Woodbury or Hopkins, one of the two, and must have just liked what she saw or a little bit of something. And she wrote me a handwritten letter, and I called her, and she wanted to have me out, and I could see campus and meet the girls, and it clicked for me. I knew exactly when I left that where I was going.
Well, I asked that question because she's coaching over at South Prairie, which is Class B, and they didn't qualify for the regionals. They had a tough loss. I watched their game, but I don't know if you've noticed, but her team is loaded with 8th graders and 9th graders, and then I heard that the 7th grade, her 7th grade travel team is like one of the best teams in North Dakota. And then they're all funneling into her team. So at some point down the road, is mentor going to play teacher in maybe a state basketball tournament? And would you enjoy that?
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? I just got to reconnect with her. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame just this last fall. And it was so fun to see a lot of former athletes and just see all the people that she's connected with over just her years at Minot State. And now she's doing some really cool stuff with some high school kids and middle school kids right now. They're such a young program. I did reach out to her last year. We had a game on our schedule that wasn't filled yet. I'm like, do you want to play? You want to play? You want to meet up for a scrimmage? You want to do something? She's like, no, you don't want to play us right now. um, she goes, we're just getting started, and we have a lot to grow, and but in a couple of years, maybe we'll plan it out. So I know they're really young, but she's definitely got a couple of her own little daughters playing that are going to be some pretty good basketball players.
She does.
That's true. Yes.
So you basketball's been a big part of your life, and now you went from player to coach. Talk us a little bit about what, were you destined that you definitely always wanted to be involved in coaching, or is it just something that kind of fell in your lap, or is it just something that you just knew you wanted to be involved in the sport, and now you've evolved and obviously seen a whole lot of success. So tell us a little bit about that journey of what led to where you are right now with your basketball career.
I went into teaching because I wanted to coach. I knew exactly what I wanted to do since I was 10 years old. Having multiple sports in my life and being a I'm head coach for softball as well here at Kindred, and have multiple state titles in that as well. And I think it's really, really easy to explain, especially to female athletes, that you know what they feel like. In certain situations, what that high pressure situation feels like. You can explain it in a way that you wish somebody would explain it to you when you were younger. And with form and different things as far as teaching skill, you know what that touch feels like. And I love being able to give my perspective on kids and them taking it and using it and showing growth and success. It's really, really, really rewarding. It's almost impossible to put into words how great it is to watch these kids want to work for you and play for you and work hard when you're not there, just so that they can have success with themselves and their team.
Absolutely.
So you have the defending state runner-ups in your region, and you've pretty much pounded everyone you've played, but that game seemed fairly close. As the regional tournament comes up, how does that feel? Have the preparation for it, and what's the sense in the locker room?
Really loose. They're really excited. I've got some really, really great senior leadership. They know that we played Castleton February 1st, and it was a 14-point game, but it still wasn't comfortable enough, and we've been challenged this year a little bit. We had a pretty solid schedule. We've played a lot of non-conference or non-region games, have been high-ranked teams in the state, and we do it on purpose. But nothing really matters until you get to crunch time and game time and these games that are happen next week. So the group that I have, their way of handling the anxiety and the stress is nothing but get in the gym. And I had conferences today, and we had a game last night, so I couldn't be at practice today because I'd be in conferences, and they still wanted to be in the gym. So they ran their own shooting practice and conditioning practice today on their own just because they wanted to be there. So
amazing. They're
really, really excited, I think, just to move forward and gain a little revenge. 2 years we were there. Last year we lost by a free throw and 0.5 seconds left, and hopefully they can use the journey along the way to make them better this year.
Wow, so if the girls have half your intensity, they'll be the most intense team in this century in state Group B girls basketball. So last question here. I'm just going to ask you straight up. You and your husband, one-on-one, how often does it happen, and who wins?
Ooh. In the wintertime, we don't see each other a whole ton to get in the gym very often, but I say it's 50-50. 10 times out of 10, I probably win 5. But if we go head-to-head with state championships, I am definitely the winner. Definitely.
He's having a fantastic season over at Cheyenne as well, is he not?
Yeah, he is. He's having a really great time. His kids work really hard for him, and it's great to see the difference between Class B and Class A, and it's great to go home and know what a coach feels like when you lose or when you're not doing something that you're proud of or that your kids are struggling, and being able to bounce ideas off him. I steal stuff from him all the time. Offensive things, out of bounds plays. I tell him what I need, and he's like, try this. So it's really great to see all that and be able to have that conversation. And he's very, very supportive. It's easy to do your job well when you have support at home.
Is there college coaching in your future?
You know, I get that question asked a few times just because I have, you know, I all 3 seniors are going to play college basketball. You know, they're like, technically, you're kind of coaching a college team right now. But I did get to be a GA under Sheila for a year before we left. We had left that year that it's flooded in Minot, and my husband and I had just gotten married that summer, and we were struggling to find a place to live that we could actually afford cheap college kids. So I
That was
don't
a
know
rough
yet.
year for rent. And...
Oh yes.
Yeah, I have 2 small boys. I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. Right now, or within the next 10 years, probably not. Probably not. But who knows? Maybe the right opportunity will happen.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it, and good luck at regionals, and hopefully we'll see you at state too.
Yes, I hope to see you there as well. And thanks for having me. It's been great. Kind of reminisce a little bit.
I will be in Fargo next week for your regional tournament, so I hope to talk to a couple of your girls and and show the state some of their personality.
Absolutely. Well, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys enjoy the rest of your night.
That was an unbelievable interview from Sam Brandt, and I think all of you guys saw the same thing I saw. I mean, her intensity just came through there. If her team's anything like her, I mean, it's going to be an interesting state tournament. I hope to see them at state. I've seen them play. I'm going back to watch them at regionals, and she is on fire.
Absolutely. You know what? And it kind of leads into what I really wanted to ask you. You know, we just finished, some district games. Like we talked about in each one of these podcasts, you've had a big opportunity to be able to go to a lot of these games, check out some matchups. I mean, it seems like you're getting to be popular as they see you into those stadiums. But, talk a little bit about some of these district games, some of these games that really kind of stopped or popped out at you. There were some heartbreaking losses and some kind of expected wins. So tell us a little bit about what your travels took you to and some of your highlights of what you thought about some of these district games.
Oh man, the energy was alive in the gyms. I really enjoyed that. It was, and I've not been a huge into Class B sports or whatnot. I went to the 2 district tournaments for Region 6 basketball girls this past weekend. I saw some unbelievable players. Allison Unlin from MLS. She's 6'4" and she runs the court like a guard. She's got offers from Moorhead, Minot, Mary, Northern.
Wow.
Like, I mean, she is Northern Iowa, I think. I mean, she is like she's one of the top gets probably in North Dakota. Ellie Broughton. Now, I watched her game. I was actually on TikTok Live during her game. Mm-hmm. She had, I think, 21 football full court throws and didn't miss one of them. 2 of them went through, her teammates' hands, but they were on a dime. She is an absolute money point guard. I really enjoyed watching that. I watched DLB versus Bishop Ryan. Mm-hmm. Bishop Ryan is athletic. They're tough to handle. I mean, you got to defend them all over the court. I saw our Redeemers. Maya Viabeto can get her shot off at any time. That seems very difficult to.
Apparently, she's a great free throw shooter too. Is that what I hear? I mean, that's another
3-point shooter. Yeah.
3-point shooter. Yeah.
I watched rugby beat Botno. Botno is long and athletic. They struggled on the offensive end. It was just iron unkind all day for them. They had a 9-2 lead early against rugby. Rugby is so well coached. They moved from 3/4 court press to half court press, and if Botno called timeout, they came out in a different defense. I mean, they were rugby is super well coached. Heidelbaugh in that tough game, it was a 2-point game at halftime. She just put the team on her shoulders and carried them across the line. Their point guard is very, very good. They're just really organized. They're going to be a tough out, I think. Our Redeemers has a tough first matchup
Yeah.
there.
Anybody shock you at all? Anybody that just kind of like, oh man, was there? I mean, some expectations of certain teams.
You know,
or was it just...
TGU getting into the region tournament, and they had a fantastic freshman. They did a good job. I had the opportunity to see rugby boys and Bishop Ryan boys tonight, and that I'll just tell you right now, rugby student section is phenomenal.
Really?
They were phenomenal at rugby. They were phenomenal for
travel
the
well.
girls
They travel
at
well, too.
Velva in the district championship game, and they traveled tonight, and they had a full student section. They filled up half, maybe more, of Ryan's gym, and you know
travel
that
well.
Foster kid can play. He's 6'5", but he missed a shot on the baseline. It rimmed out. Ryan outlet pass, and he ran all the way down the court and blocked Johnson at the rim.
Wow.
You know, that kid defends Feller. He's closing in on 1,000 points, Brady Feller. And, man, you know, for a jump shooter, he defends hard. He had 4 straight short jumpers in the second half, and then decided to get to the line. And he closed that game out with 8 for 8 from the free throw line. And I thought that was high basketball IQ. I've been defending hard. They're the best guy the whole game. My jump shots get short. I'm just going to get to the line over and over and over. But, yeah, if you haven't seen Class B basketball in North Dakota, it's phenomenal. I look forward to seeing Class A Century girls. I'll be going to see them.
Yep.
And they've got the best player in the state. So that's going to be interesting. I've heard where she's going. It's not been announced yet, so I'll let her do
Maybe
that.
we get her to announce live on our podcast.
Yeah,
or
that would
something.
be
platform,
amazing.
Yeah, TikTok or trending, but
That would be amazing.
Yep.
But that's what I got.
okay, well, good. Well, all right, it's going to be an exciting time. I know you'll be following along here as we get ready for finish into the regionals as we move to state. We want to thank you for the next segment here on the North Dakota High School Sports segment. Good.
Thanks for watching the second episode of Spainer and Riggs, and be sure to subscribe to us, SpainerandRiggs.com. Check out all of our social media, TikTok, Facebook, and so on. Also, we're part of the Dakota Network. You know me, Spainer, I'll be on the road. Thursday, I will be in Fargo for state wrestling. I'm not just a basketball guy, and I will be hitting all the region tournaments and some of the Class A games as they close out their season. Thanks a lot, Riggs.
You bet. We'll see you next time.